All right, guys. So our penultimate topic here is going to shift us into the MCU Sonyverse world. All right, the spunk, isn't that what they were calling it? The spunk Sony Pictures or Universe of Spider. I don't know what it was. They had some weird name for what Sony had some weird name for what they were calling their Spider-Man universe. I think it was Spunk. I don't know. I don't even remember what it is. It was so bad. But either way, it looks like there are reports coming out with very little information, unfortunately. But that I'm sorry. Submit topics and questions, guys. Just do it. Submit topics and questions. The buttons are right next to each other. They are so Marvel Studios and Sony Pictures have reportedly extended the deal. That there was all the hubbub where I don't know. I think it was like earlier this year. The deal had reached an end. The MCU deal with Spider-Man and Sony, where they essentially, like, if you remember at D23, like that's kind of when it happened, which is unfortunate. At D23, the news came out that they didn't go through with the deal anymore, and like Spider-Man was essentially gone from the MCU, and it kind of put Tom Holland in an awkward position because he was there at the time, um, and like he went on stage and had to like do his thing, but he was like, "Oh, I love you guys," in a very "this might be the last time I'm here" as Spider-Man kind of way, but it obviously got resolved, and they extended the deal out to finish the Spider-Man 3 movie coming out, and I think one other appearance. So they have Spider-Man 3, and then he has one other appearance in the can for, I think it's going to be Doctor Strange, because it was going to be for as a secondary character in the other films. So, but it looks like this is supposedly saying that the deal has been extended even further beyond that, because that's all we were at before from the previous deal. So there's no new information as to what this means as far as like how many more films he's going to be in. If they actually have like a solid plan as to like, okay, like we need him to appear in X amount of movies on Marvel's end.
How many do they have planned?
Right now, just 2 appearances. That's all we know. That's Spider-Man 3, and then what we expect to be Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we don't really know for certain, but it's just essentially 2 pictures. So if it ends up being Doctor Strange or like an Avengers movie, that would be the second one, because we know Spider-Man 3 is one of them. So I don't really know as far as like speculation as to like how much further this could go. I don't think we'll know more until we have more information on Spider-Man 3, because I think that's going to really like set up this whole multiverse thing that there seemed to be going on. And the only thing I could really say is I hope this goes further, and I gotta say this had some impact, if not the like the biggest impact on why the deal almost fell through before. And we never got a whole lot of information out of it other than Marvel. It looked like Disney and Marvel were the actual cause of the deal not falling through. Everyone was so quick to blame Sony when the deal fell through prior. And from all the information that was released to the trades, or at least from the trades, it all indicated that Marvel wanted more power and wanted more profits. They wanted to have a 50-50 split on the production cost, but that would essentially give them 50% of the rights back in a lot of ways. So obviously Sony would not want to do that, because they don't want to lose their big money maker. Like that's so in the end, it's like no surprise, and I know people, especially all the MCU fans, myself included, would love Marvel just to have their properties, but like in this situation, Spider-Man does not belong to Marvel. Like it's not a thing as far as the
It's
movies
so
go.
weird, but
Like Sony owns all aspects of the character Spider-Man. Like it just is what it is. Like, and that's like
when it comes to film,
yeah, film and the video games and everything. It's like it extends beyond that. It's like the only thing they don't own is like comic book stuff, because like Sony is like, or Spider-Man is literally a Sony property. They bought like exclusive. I forget what it's God, it's like media rights or something. Like I can't remember what the name of it is, but it includes like video games and everything. It like goes beyond just movies in a lot of ways.
okay.
Like, 'cause I think it might extend to like merchandising and things like that. Like I don't really know, um, but either way, what I would hope this some of the not would hope, but what I would think Sony would probably be pushing for, if I had to speculate on this any further, because when it comes to the deal itself, like, I obviously don't see any reason as why both of them wouldn't want the deal to continue as long as they're making money. If Marvel's making money and Sony's making money, why would they, why would you end a good thing? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
as long as everybody's happy in some capacity. Actually, it doesn't really matter if everybody's happy. If you're making money, that's the whole point. Like, it's a business. Like, if you're both making money, then just I'm sure they're gonna be happy with it in some capacity. I could see Sony. What I would like to see is them being allowed to have Tom Holland go into the Venom movie or the Morbius movie, which looks like that may have been a part of that previous deal. Like, because given the Morbius trailer where we saw Michael Keaton's Vulture and then the Spider-Man mural on the wall and just in the Morbius trailer alone. So, like, I think that was probably something that Sony was really pushing for. Was like, we know Spider-Man's like doing your thing in the MCU, but like, we kind of want to have like creative control and be able to use him in both worlds. And that's where Kevin Feige went on to say at one point. Uh, I think they had it quoted here, but he said that he's able to jump between universes. So it seems like that's what Sony was pushing for in the previous deal, and it looks like they got that. Where Marvel was pushing for 50-50 co-financing, which Sony wasn't happy with, and I can't blame them. So, but as far as speculatory goes, like, I don't really know how much further this could go, and it would really just seem to me that it obviously has something to do with this multiverse thing, and they must have more plans for it going forward in some capacity. So, what do you guys think? Because, like I said, unfortunately, we don't know a whole lot about it. Just that the deal has been extended, but to what extent we don't know. But what do you guys think it could possibly mean as far as Marvel goes? Because it looks like Sony already got what they wanted. At least it
Yeah.
looks like, but we don't know.
I mean, it blows my mind that Marvel doesn't own the rights to Spider-Man like that. But it's how it's always been, though. I think from the original Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
Yep. Because back in the day, Marvel
that-
was bankrupt, and that's why
Yep.
Fox owned X-Men,
Yeah.
Fantastic Four. They had to sell off a lot of their properties. So they sold off Hulk, X-Men, Fantastic Four, and Spider-Man, most notably. I might be missing something, but those are the big ones. But yeah, it's been like that. Until now, Spider-Man is the only one that they still don't have, and they're never gonna have him back as long as Sony's in business.
Yeah.
Like,
Sure.
like because everyone always says, like, why doesn't they just buy it? Like, he's not for sale.
It's worth too much.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter how much money Disney would have and offer Sony, like, he's not for sale. Like, you know what I mean? It's just how it works. Like, it's just too much of a it's too much for Sony. It's a big property for them.
Yeah, just like Disney would never sell Star Wars now that they have the rights to it. These companies don't sell IPs. They just don't, because it's not just a matter of how much they can make off of it now. It's all the future profits the untold future profits that they can make off of stuff. So something that's down right now may be the hottest thing in the world in 10 years, and you don't know how to accurately value that or place a price tag on that. So they just don't sell them off.
Yeah. Well, it's like too, like a lot of things you can't really account for, like merchandising goes. Like, how much money like Disney now makes on just like Star Wars merchandising alone. Now that they have it, you know what I mean? So it's like in a lot of consumers' minds, like, even if like the Spider-Man movies were like bombing at the box office and stuff, it's like, if Sony is also getting merchandising from Spider-Man, yeah, like that's where like toys and all that stuff. They make almost more money from that, if not always more money from that stuff, than they do on a movie here and there. You know what I mean? And then just like in Sony's situation, being able to produce those amazing Spider-Man games is too much of a coup for them. Like, because that's a big deal for them and their PlayStation platform. So it's like the Spider-Man character alone has really helped Sony out in a lot of ways that a lot of people might not really know. Like, because like Sony's been one of those companies who has been kind of like Marvel was back in the day, where like their profits have been down in a lot of cases. And not that like Spider-Man's been the saving grace, but he's played a big role in keeping them afloat. Like, there's really no denying that. So but what do you guys think? What do you think this means if you had to speculate, though, as far as the plans going forward in Marvel? Do you think that, like, obviously they're gonna make him more of a central central figure in like an Avengers kind of thing, or just more of a central key component of the MCU? Because really, as it stands now, he hasn't really been a big part of like the MCU. Like he's been there, but he hasn't
He's
been
been pretty major. He's
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
not in a lot of. He's been like a bigger side character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I think the impression of him being bigger though is there though because of how closely they tie him to Tony Stark
yeah.
and how like I mean Tony passes his legacy, for lack of a better way to put it, you know, in a way down to Spidey in Homecoming. Now,
And he
not
just
Homecoming,
gives it away.
in Far From Home, exactly.
Yeah, he's like a stupid kid.
So while Spidey may not be front and center in the Avengers movies necessarily, the overall in the larger story arc, it certainly seemed in Far From Home that Spidey was taking over that Iron Man type role, and his legacy was being passed to Spidey, which elevates him up to that upper echelon there. The one thing that about on this particular news is I hope this is correct. I hope that they've reached an agreement and this continues for a time to come. This news doesn't come from a verified source, so it's questionable as to whether or not this is true or just somebody's gossip that they heard.
Spaghetti on the wall.
Yeah. The other part of it that I'm wondering is, so when you start talking about the multiverse of madness and Spidey's involvement in that, I think one of the things that Sony is probably concerned with, and Marvel too, to an extent, is if Sony decides that they want Tom Holland to appear in the next Venom movie, and if they want him to appear in, how do moviegoers account for the fact that the same Spider-Man who has Thor on his speed dial, there's no reference to him in a Venom movie that he shows up in? Like, how do you account for that lack of, or that disconnect between characters? And part of me wonders if with the introduction of the multiverse, if they won't use that to take the opportunity to say that there are two different versions of Tom Holland's Spider-Man. There's the one that appears in the Venom verse, and then there's also the one that appears in the MCU, and Tom Holland starts doing the same role, but technically they're different because they're in different universes.
Right.
I wonder if they try and pull something like that off so that they can have him appear in these things, but also with the kind of understanding that it's technically not the same guy.
I could see that. I could also
It'd be
like.
complicated.
That's what I was gonna. We say this a lot, but like a lot of times when you try to like explain like a confusing time travel situation like that, it becomes more confusing, and a lot of times, you know what I mean? Like as you continually think about it, you just keep opening up these other like wormholes, if you will, and you're just like, but if that's this, then how is that this? Like, and I could see that being a thing, and especially too, not to mention, Sony was, and a lot of people aren't talking about this, and this could play into it in a lot of ways too. But Sony had been developing a Madam Web movie, so that's possible they couldn't. They could be using that as well to like kind of further branch out this Spider-Verse thing in live action.
And the other thing we haven't, just wildly speculated on is, what if this deal is not just to bring Spidey into the MCU, but provide access? Maybe they came to some very mutual agreed upon licensing deal where Venom now maybe gets to make an appearance in the MCU. What if they, for lack of a better way to put it, licensed all the Spider-Man characters back to him? They retained all the rights and everything, but they licensed all of them back to him. Maybe that's
what I expected them to do. Like, in all honesty, like I wouldn't expect them to do this 50-50 thing that would infringe on, Sony's profits and then overall like rights to the character in general. But just do the same thing that they've been doing with Spider-Man with Marvel. Just like essentially let Kevin Feige have access to the Spider-Man characters and let him kind of be in charge in the movie development of the Spider-Man character, just so that like, because again, if it's working, why would you not continue to go with it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like at this point, like people like us, we're not gonna doubt Kevin Feige. Like So I don't know why anybody in a position of power at Sony would also like doubt him. Like if Kevin Feige came to me and was like, I got this great idea, but I need access to, Venom to do it. Why would you say no to that? Like
Yeah.
he has a pretty good track record of making good comic book movies. So
Yeah.
like I would let him do whatever he wants to do. Like as long as he doesn't give up your rights to anything, then yeah, just let it work because it would only make like sense for because that's where it gets confusing. It's just like we got Venom here, but where's Spider-Man? And it's like now Spider-Man shows up. It's like, but we were already confused because Spider-Man wasn't there, but now he is there. But now this is a different Spider-Man, and like,
Yeah.
why is Tobey Maguire back? Like, it almost just starts to get more and more confusing if you don't just like acknowledge the fact that they're all part of the same universe in some capacity. So like, I don't know, and who doesn't want to see Spider-Man and Venom on screen together? I mean,
Right.
like,
Sweet.
I know we already did, but no one's talking about Spider-Man 3. Not that Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. You know what I mean? You know what the worst part about that movie was though? Hobgoblin, dude. Like James Franco's Goblin character. He
Yeah.
had a freaking flying snowboard.
It was stupid.
Like everyone wants to give like Topher Grace Venom shit. Like, dude, come on. Like James Franco came riding in on a freaking snowboard. That's way worse. Like it was like I think everybody forgets about that because they're so focused. I will say this though, at least the character design for Venom was good. It was okay. I thought it was okay. Yeah. Do you think character design for Venom was
I just the wrong. Like as a Spider-Man comic book reader, and even the Spider-Man animated show back in the day. I mean, Eddie Brock was a kind of a meathead, a big huge buff guy, and so when you get Topher Grace, I understand they're trying to play off the opposite. He's the opposite of Peter Parker, so you make them the same, but then they're the same. They're the opposite sides of the same coin type deal. Like the yin into his yang. I get all that, but that's not what it was in the comics. That's not the idea that at least a lot of Spidey fans had going into it. A lot of those people who were clamoring to see Venom were clamoring to see the Venom that they knew, and that's not what they got with that movie. So I understand what you're saying about he's not necessarily the worst part of that movie. He stuck out like a sore thumb in that movie because of that.
Yeah. He's not the best part either, obviously. You know what I mean? Honestly, too, let's be real here. There's a lot of bad. Like we had emo Peter, which was arguably the worst part of that movie.
Oh yeah.
Like, come on. Like
the dancing
yeah, I think it's like the emo Peter stuff, then the snowboard stuff, and then the Venom stuff. I think it's the third worst is Venom's just existence in that movie and how it was done. But I think honestly, even though the other ones are smaller, like little things, so like I can see why people would be more upset about the Venom thing. But at the same time, like when you just really look at it for what it is, like those other things were way worse, in my opinion. Like just the fact that they even happened. But either way, that's pretty much all I have for this, guys. You guys got any other speculatory things on the Spider-Man stuff before we go off on the Spider-Man tangent? Because we already tangent. I thought this was going to be a 5-minute thing. Like, oh, yeah, the deal's here. We're going on for 20 minutes on this. So, all right, guys. Let us know what you think about this, the possibility of the Spider-Man MCU, Sony deal being extended further, and let us know what you think it kind of means for the MCU and the Sony, Spider-Verse that they have going forward. Do you think it's just going to mean Spider-Man, Tom Holland Spider-Man is going to be playing more of a key role in the MCU movies? Or do you think it's going to have something more to do with, like we kind of said, like Kevin Feige and the MCU having more access and kind of at least creative control over the other Spider-Man characters, like a Morbius, Venom, that kind of thing? Let us know what you think down in the comment section below.